exclusively on ESPN Plus. UFC 313, Saturday. Reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira defends his title against number one contender Magomed Ankalaev, and an explosive lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Pazzi. UFC 313, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
Like a lot of great art, the following program contains nudity, so viewer discretion is advised.
Spanning the globe to bring you the latest in classic rock news and comment. It's the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update with your host, Jeremy Lunnan.
Hey, good morning. At least it's morning for me, 10:28 local time from the command center in beautiful Spokane, Washington. I'm Jeremy. It's time for the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update. I got to do some shameless self-promotion. I feel I have to do that. If you are not listening to Classic Guitar Rock Radio, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, it's a great radio station. This past weekend, we debuted the great 4-hour show with Dennis Hoagland. Saturday, it was all about the 70s. Of course, we have the Classic Metal Vault, which happens every Friday night. Then it plays again like 4 a.m. Saturday morning. That's for our folks in the UK, actually, is why we play it at that time. And then we do it again at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So 3 times a weekend to catch the Classic Metal Vault. We got the Well now. It goes on Saturday and Sunday from 9 to noon or 9 to 1 Pacific time. And where am I going with this? Noon today. It's the Classic Guitar Rock Time Machine with yours truly. This next episode, we're going back to 1975, and we might not come back. We might get there and just stay there. This may be the last time you see me unless you go back to 1975. But anyways, do yourself a favor and check out Classic Guitar Rock Radio. You'll love the music. You'll love the shows. I think you'll do better with the ladies if you listen. That's just my personal opinion. But check it out. Noon today. That's just an hour and a half from right now. At the time that I'm recording this, it's the Classic Guitar Rock Time Machine at noon. So a lot of news to get to today. Some breaking, some old, but we're going to talk about it anyways. You've probably, if you're a fan of the rock, you've probably seen the brouhaha that happened with Jane's Addiction over the weekend. Did you see that? So Perry Farrell had a confrontation with Dave Navarro. They're literally in the middle of a song, and Farrell goes up and gets right in his face and is yelling and then punches him. And then all of a sudden, a roadie runs out and breaks him up and all. Anyways, the show ended, right? That was the end of the show. Usually if you punch a bandmate during the show, it's not going to end well. Well, it didn't end well. It did end, but not well. Well, there were statements. The band, they apologized for it. They did say they were going to cancel their next show. Well, now come to find out this morning, they've announced the entire tour is canceled. So it's done. Here's the first statement they made. To all the fans, the band have made the difficult decision to take some time away as a group. As such, they will be canceling the remainder of the tour. Wow. And then a second statement was shared in a post on Navarro's personal Instagram, signed by himself, Eric Avery, and Stephen Perkins. Quote, due to a continuing pattern of behavior and the mental health difficulties of our singer, Perry Farrell, we have come to the conclusion that we have no choice but to discontinue the current U.S. tour. Our concern for his personal health and safety, as well as our own, has left us no alternative. We hope that he will find the help he needs. Continues, we deeply regret that we are not able to come through for all our fans who have already bought tickets. We can see no solution that would either ensure a safe environment on stage or reliably allow us to deliver a great performance on a nightly basis. Our hearts are broken. This is akin to me, and I don't mean to sound harsh, but you know when you see like professional athletes that make millions of dollars that are complaining, right? Same thing here. Here you got a bunch of millionaires get paid to play music on stage, and they can't hold it together enough to continue a tour. They're all babies and boobs. Okay. This is why you don't do drugs. Okay. Simple as that. Yeah. I hope the guy gets the help he needs. Right. And, you know, to be honest, I mean, in the video, Dave's just playing. I've watched Dave on the Ink Master. You know, I've seen Dave in various, he seems like an okay dude, but what I've heard is he's got a massive ego. I don't know all the details, but Perry Farrell is, you watch the video and he's got issues, right? I don't know if it's all drugs or what's going on. That's my guess. I don't know. He's got problems. But yeah, you know, it's a shame when these guys who for a living get to play music on stage, a dream for lots of people, just like professional athletes, they get to play a game for a living, not just a living, but like multimillionaires, and they complain about it and they can't make it work. It is what it is. So, all right. Some sad news. Tito Jackson, an original member of the Jackson 5, died on yesterday at the age of 70. Now, obviously we all know Michael Jackson. We all know the Jackson 5. What I liked about Tito, and I think it was Jackie who played bass. There were two of them. They had to learn all the dance steps and play instruments. Tito was the guitar player. And I think Jackie was the bass player. All the other brothers just got to dance, right? So I was always a fan of Tito. Tito had some crazy guitars and stuff too. He had one that was like a baseball mitt with the ball, and then the neck was like a bat. It was pretty cool. I always had a soft spot for Tito. So sad that he's passed. No reason given for the death. His three sons, Taj, Terrell, and TJ, posted this, quote, "We are shocked, saddened, and heartbroken. Our father was an incredible man who cared about everyone and their well-being. Some of you may know him as Tito Jackson from the legendary Jackson 5. Some may know him as Coach Tito, or some know him as Papa T. Nevertheless, he will be missed tremendously. It will forever be Tito time for us. Please remember to do what our father always preached, and that is love one another. We love you, Pops." So our condolences to the family of Tito Jackson. Styx. Styx is, guys, they sound really good. Okay. If you have a chance to go see Styx, I'm always saying this. Yes, there's not original members. Yes, I know Dennis DeYoung is not there. But if you want to see a great classic rock show, you got to go see Styx while you still can. Okay. They've announced they'll be performing 1977's The Grand Illusion in its entirety for the first time ever. I didn't know this was the first time. I thought they'd already done a tour where they did the entire Grand Illusion. This surprised me. I'm not saying I'm smarter than whoever wrote this story, but I thought there was a tour where they did Grand Illusion in its entirety. Anyways, they're doing it in its entirety at the Venetian Resort in Las Vegas. So that's cool. I think it's they're doing 5 nights. I don't know, but you can go check out Styx there, or if they're coming to a town near you, you should really make plans to do it. Okay, this is not a politics update. We don't talk about politics. Politics sucks, but there are political shadings to this story. So I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm giving you a warning. And since we're talking about politics, let me just say this. I don't care who you're voting for. Okay. I don't care who you're voting for. But if you're such an idiot, butt-face, jerk nozzle, dork ratchet that you've got to go out and try to shoot someone because you don't like their politics, you're sick. Okay. And if you think that's okay, you're sick. I'm just going to throw that out. Okay. So here, this is twice in less than 2 months that some whack jobs have tried to shoot a presidential candidate. It's ridiculous. Okay. It's ridiculous. If your brain is so messed up that you feel like you need to shoot someone because you don't like their politics, you're a sicko. If you condone that kind of behavior, you're a sicko. Just cogitate on that for a minute. Okay, David Gilmour has opened up about his fractured relationship with former Pink Floyd bandmate Roger Waters. Here's the politics. Whenever you're talking about Roger Waters, you know there's going to be politics involved. Specifically, this is from Ultimate Classic Rock, by the way. Specifically, Gilmour told Mojo that a tweet he sent in January 2023 regarding Waters' alleged anti-Semitism was boiling up. It had to come out, and I have no regrets about it. No regrets whatsoever. Roger Waters is historically pretty, well, anti-Semitic. I mean, that's all you can say. So after Russia invaded Ukraine, Gilmour and Nick Mason released a single called Hey, Hey, Rise Up. Waters called the song contentless and flag waving. Now, Gilmour's wife and collaborator, she writes songs with him. She wrote on Twitter that Waters was a, quote, Putin apologist and a lying, thieving, hypocritical, tax-avoiding, lip-syncing, misogynistic, sick with envy, megalomaniac. Well, that sounds like nitpicking. Anyways, Gilmour comes in and says, every word is demonstrably true about what his wife said. So, okay. For his part, Waters said he had no comment. It's private. So when this went out, Waters didn't comment on it. But there's obviously no love loss between the two. And David Gilmour's kind of just sick of talking about Roger Waters, it sounds like. Understandably so. He says, do you know what decade of my life I was in when Roger left our pop group, referring to Pink Floyd? My 30s. I'm now 78. Where's the relevance? He's like, move along. I don't care. I don't want to talk about it. So good for Dave. All right. Let's see what else we got. Oh, now this is not new. This is not hot off the presses, but this is a story that we actually talk about. I think it's in our Aussies Guitarists episode of the podcast from a couple of years ago. You might want to go back and listen to that, where we kind of talk about it from, I think we talk about it from Jakey Lee's angle. And a lot of folks don't realize that George Lynch almost got the job. In fact, it goes back even further than that. Let's talk about George Lynch for a minute. A lot of folks don't know this. When Randy left Musonia was his mom, Dolores's music school in Los Angeles or Hollywood. And Randy was a teacher there. He had lots of students. And when he left to join Ozzy, his student, he I don't know if it was all of his students, but many of his students, he gave or referred to George Lynch. So they knew each other, right? So George wound up taking on a lot of Randy's students. And in fact, George auditioned at the same time Randy auditioned in 1979. Okay. So obviously George and Randy knew each other. Randy thought enough of George to send him his students, right? George didn't get the gig. However, After Randy died, they knew Brad Gillis would be leaving. Remember, Brad comes in, replaces right after Randy died. First, there was Bernie Torme, or Bernie Torm. Maybe he pronounced it Torm. Well, remember, Bernie came in for like a week, and they knew that wasn't going to work. They needed someone literally like tonight to play this gig. So Bernie comes in. He said it wasn't really his style. He filled in for like a week. Brad Gillis comes in. Brad Gillis is the guy for the rest of the Diary tour. When I saw Ozzy in 82, June of 82, it was Brad on guitar. He did a phenomenal job. Brad had the gig. You know, Brad could have stayed and would have been his guitar player for who knows how long. He got on great with the band. Ozzy was happy with him. Sharon was happy with him. Everything seemed like it was great. But remember, Brad had another band, a new band called Night Ranger that was kind of his baby. And so they knew that Brad would be leaving. And so they had to have someone ready. And guess what? George Lynch seemed to be the heir apparent. George Lynch was touring with the band for like a couple months. He went on tour with them. He'd get up and play at sound checks. He said he went to Ireland. He was in Texas. He was all over touring with the band, right? SIR Studios, they'd rehearse there. And he was assuming as soon as Brad was done, you know, there was probably a date. I don't know contractually what was all going on, but Brad gave them notice. So they were preparing for his departure, right? George was the guy, but it was never to be. And here's why. Let me see. Let me read a quote. George says, I was kind of feeling like, okay, well, this time it's real. This time it's going to stick. Because remember, he had auditioned when Randy auditioned back in 79. And I had time to prepare. Now, this was interesting. Now let's think about this. Lynch enlisted Rat's Warren DeMartini to help him work out Rhodes' guitar parts, admitting the style was not really down my lane, he said. But by the time of his new audition, he was confident he knew the material and it seemed to go well. So George reaches out to Warren, who's helping him learn the Randy parts. Well, who did Warren replace in Rat? You guys know? Jakey Lee. So before Warren was in Rat, Jakey Lee was in Rat. So all these guys knew each other. I just think it's kind of funny. But George says they flew me around. I went to Scotland. I went to Ireland, England, back to Texas for rehearsals, did some touring, but I didn't walk on stage during the show. I'd do sound checks with them occasionally and stuff like that, just hung with the band. I think they wanted to see how I fit chemistry-wise with everyone. But he says, Ozzy, there were two problems. Ozzy had a problem with George's hair. George had short hair. And I've heard in other interviews, the reason he had short hair is he's working full time. He's like driving he's a beer delivery driver and has to have short hair. And if you remember the early days of Dokken, when that Breaking the Chains album comes out, his hair's still pretty short, right? So, but Ozzy didn't like his short hair. Sharon didn't like his guitar. He had a green guitar. She said it looked like a booger. And so she didn't like his guitar. So they're harping on his hair and his guitar. And George says, well, you know, I got other guitars at home. Okay, I don't have to play this one. This is just the one I brought. But she kept harping on his booger colored guitar. And he says, well, yeah, I got short hair, but my hair will grow. By the way, your husband is bald. Because remember, at this time, this was right after summer of 82 at the Texas Jam. Ozzy shaved his head bald. Okay, so this was just months after that. If you see pictures from when they recorded Speak of the Devil, by the way, Ozzy's got it's you know that look of a crew cut that's growing out, right? It was just kind of this Rob Halford looking haircut going on. When I say Rob Halford, I mean the Rob Halford of the 80s when he had the bleach blonde crew cut thing going on. That's what Ozzy's hair looked like. Only it wasn't blonde. It was, you know, Anyways, I digress. George said, I can play a different guitar. My hair will grow. I can even wear a wig if you want me to. So he's like all this, offering these solutions. And he says, Ozzy can do whatever he wants, the guitarist said. And they have these things called wigs, and lots of rockers wear them. I'll wear one of those. How about that? Referring to the fact that it's a big deal that his hair is short. He's like, I get it. His band, Ozzy, whatever. I can wear a wig, whatever. But he says about a month went by and we were traveling, rehearsing in Dallas for a while. Then we moved rehearsals to LA. And then we're at SIR Music Studio one night. And Wendy Dio, I guess, kept pressuring him to get one of her guys. And Jake E was one of her guys. He was in a band. Was that Rough Cut? Was he in Rough Cut? I don't remember. I got to go back. Anyways, Jake was in a band. And by the way, Jake auditioned for Dio's band as well. So it could have been Jake instead of Vivian. All this. And remember, we talk about Ozzy and Dio hating each other, yet they had this relationship with Wendy Dio, who was the man. She was the Sharon Osbourne of the Dio, same thing. Ozzy had Sharon, Ronnie had Wendy. Okay. And both wives kind of, I don't want to say they ran the show. Well, in Ozzy's case, they really did run the show. I don't know if Wendy had the same level of influence. She probably did. Anyways, Jake was one of her boys and she was really pushing him forward, probably because she gets a chunk of his salary, how all that works. I know that Jake got cheated by Ozzy and Sharon. That's a whole nother story. But anyways, they're pushing Jake up there. So George shows up for rehearsal. No one has talked to him, and he gets in there, and there's this Jake guy up playing with the band. Rudy's probably already gone by this time because he went back to Quiet Riot. So it's probably Bob Daisley at this point. He doesn't mention. But he sees Jake up there, and he says, so they had an audition that they didn't tell me about, and I just showed up at SIR thinking we're going to rehearse. And there's the other guys on stage. Nobody even told me. And Jake E was up there not playing really well, and self-admittedly, because we talked afterwards. But Lynch says, but he looked fantastic. He had his full leather bodysuit with all these accoutrements all over it, and his hair was down to his ass. He looked fantastic, and he moved great. The only thing remaining was for Lynch to be told that he had been canned. And he said, Ozzy walked back to the dressing rooms and said, hey, and it's hard to understand what he was saying with his accent. I couldn't really tell what he says, but I got to the point that I was fired. So that was the end of it. So that little piece of history not a lot of people know about. And it's just kind of interesting. That was from Ultimate Classic Rock. You can hear more details. Go to the episode on, we have a podcast episode about Blizzard of Oz. We also have a podcast episode about Ozzy's guitarist. You might want to check those out for more information on those. I'm a George Lynch fan. I'm a big fan of the early Ozzy, the Blizzard, Diary, even Speak of the Devil. That whole time period fascinates. I read anything I can about that because it's so interesting. I kind of lost interest in Ozzy, to be honest. I bought Bark at the Moon. Nothing against Jake. Jake's a great player, but no albums stood up. None even come close to Blizzard and Diary, in my opinion. So I always like to talk about the history. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Again, coming up in just over an hour, noon Pacific time, is the Classic Guitar Rock Time Machine. We're going back to 1975. Be there or be square. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll talk to you next time. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Thanks for listening. You can email Jeremy at classicguitarrock@mail.com.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Tune in each weekday for the Classic Guitar Rock Daily Update.